So your husband comes up to you, puts his arms around you, starts making some romantic moves, starts getting in the mood, and all of a sudden you start to experience some anxiety. That might even lead to feeling really locked up in your body and like, oh my God, can you just get off of me right now? That might even lead to some overwhelming sensations and an experience of panic attacks. Or maybe you've noticed that for a long time when you were a kid, maybe you didn't like men for some reason and you're not even sure why, or maybe you avoided certain people or certain places and you had no idea why. Maybe you have had or experienced it at some point in your life, some nightmares or maybe some flashbacks of something, but you can't create enough of a clear vision around it where you're like, oh yeah, that thing that happened, but it's just like pieces of a memory and you can't put it all together. Well, love, if you've experienced any of these sorts of things, along with issues around self-worth, self-confidence, feeling numb, disconnected, experiencing pain during sex, lack of pleasure or orgasm, maybe you even dissociate from your body, or you've experienced eating disorders in the past because they gave you some sense of control, or you commonly abuse substances like alcohol or some sorts of drugs, just because, you want to check out for the day. All of these are signs that you have maybe experienced some sort of traumatic or abusive situation in the past, and sometimes that could mean that it was a sexual trauma or abuse. But you don't ever remember being sexually traumatized or abused. What the hell do you do? Well, today I'm going to share with you about this very common phenomenon that I hear from women all the time when they get on pleasure assessment calls with me. They'll be like, Tilly, I haven't experienced any sexual trauma or abuse that I can remember, but I freaking act like it and I don't know why. Well, love, I've got some answers for this very interesting phenomenon today. And I'm excited to show you how you might be able to move beyond this and experience more of a sense of feeling free and confident in your body and sexuality. So I hope you join me to the end, and we'll see you in a second. The Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire with Tilly Storm is the only sex podcast for high-achieving leaders wanting to experience the best sex and the epic relationships of their lives without dragging their partner to therapy, blaming it on their hormones, or trying things in the bedroom that don't feel authentic. I'm your host today, Tilly Storm, top 20 sex coach in the world. I hope you enjoy the episode. All right, loves, today we're talking about healing sexual trauma or abuse that you can't remember. But for some reason you think or you act like you've experienced it. Your body has some sort of remembrance, but you cannot bring back the memory to save your life. And you can't put two and two together. You can't figure out why. I am going to share something today that I've never shared on this podcast before. I feel that this is something that I have experienced. All growing up, I could not stand being around men. When I was 6 years old, I was taking swim lessons. My mom wanted me to take swim lessons. And the coach was a guy. And I think he was in like his mid-20s. And I remember vehemently telling my mother that I did not want to ever be in the hands of a guy. Like, I remember being like, no, I can only have a female teacher. And it didn't even make any sense then. And it doesn't make any sense today, but there were definitely some really big signs when I was growing up and the way that I felt in my body and sexuality when I was a teenager and how shy I was, how anxious and overwhelmed I felt around experiencing some sort of sexual experiences. I was really locked up in my body. And there was no other explanation other than just the negative conditioning from being raised in a religious environment. But it didn't exactly explain the degree to which my body was responding in a sexual situation or around certain people, or why I would have so much anxiety around sexuality in my younger years. So when I was in sex, love, and relationship coaching training and learning Tantra, doing breathwork practices like crazy, doing all of this stuff and really healing my own shit, doing my own work, I definitely had some flashbacks come back that I was like, you know what? I probably can't remember this. This is probably something that happened when I was a baby, and I just repressed the memory of it. Whatever happened, I don't know, and I'll never probably remember it. But the great thing is that I know, because of my training, that I don't have to. All right, love, so let's dive in. Remembering unremembered sexual trauma or abuse is completely unnecessary. The body is very, very, very intelligent. It does things to protect you, to make sure that you can survive. If you have experienced any sexual trauma or abuse, but you can't necessarily put all the pieces together and remember what happened or who did it, that's okay. You don't ever have to go back there. You don't ever have to remember the story. What the body does is it represses it and it makes you not remember it to protect you. And this is a beautiful thing. However, when you're older and you start to notice some signs and symptoms like I did when I was doing my own work around how I responded in new sexual situations, or even when I was a little kid around men, and none of it made any sense, I started to recognize that, you know what, I probably did experience something that was totally not okay and not right. But me trying to recall those memories and understand it on a logical thinking level, I knew was completely unnecessary. So I want to talk to you about what that healing looks like, so you don't feel that you have to go to talk therapy or do all this cognitive behavioral shit to try and remember the thing when that isn't going to help you in the first place. The only thing that helps you heal repressed and unremembered sexual trauma or abuse is feeling it. That's it. That's all there is to it. You heard the saying, feel it to heal it. Well, there is no better scenario that is more true or more appropriate to say when it comes to healing unremembered sexual trauma or abuse. What does that look like? You're probably asking. Well, feeling it to heal it just means that you are connecting with the somatic body sensations in your body that we call the felt sense, and that you allow these sensations to arise without repressing them. So you're giving space for sensations to feel things in your body that you currently might not feel that comfortable allowing yourself to feel. Okay, short break to share this important message with you today, my loves. What if I told you that within just a couple of days or a couple of hours of listening time, you could learn and know everything you needed to know to experience epic sex and pleasure in the bedroom as a high-achieving woman? Well, I have made the most amazing 5-day audio training for you to learn just that. My 5 days to epic sex and pleasure for high achieving women audio training is completely free. If I could have you sit down with me and for just a couple of hours tell you everything that I wanted you to know that was important for you to take the next steps to experience the pleasure and the orgasms and the connection that you want with your partner more than ever, what is in this training is exactly what I would tell you. So if you don't have time, or maybe you're thinking, I'm brand new to you, Tilly, I have no idea who you are. Why should I listen to you? Why should I continue listening to this podcast? If that's you, then I want you to go download that training at the show notes right now, because in there, it's my most jam-packed, most amazing training to help you understand what actually is required. Not to go to your therapist and for your therapist to tell you, well, just have sex. Oh, how many times I could count, I've heard that one from clients before. That's not what is going to work for you, because if it did, you wouldn't be here listening to this right now. Guaranteed. So, my loves, go download the 5 days to epic sex and pleasure training for high achieving women down in the show notes, and I will see you there. Have fun. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Because truth is you get fun, comfortable if you want to have all of the pleasure and the orgasms available to you. Because people who don't go into unblocking and de-armoring their bodies on a somatic-based level, they're just not ever going to get to that point where they're unblocking all of the things in the way of life force sexual energy flowing through you. And healing sexual trauma or abuse that you can't remember is so simple, because the only thing that's required is for you to breathe, sound, and move through the uncomfortable sensations. Now, how do you even get to the sensations? How do you even give space to allow those to come up? Well, it's de-armoring practices. It's healing practices. That's basically all they are. So there's a couple of different methods for healing and de-armoring. You may have heard me speak about these things, or maybe you've even done one of my programs and done some de-armoring and healing work before. And this is wonderful because there are a couple of ways to heal and de-armor your body to give space to allow these trapped, repressed memories that can lead to emotional baggage that you're holding on to that often presents as pain or numbness or disassociation from your body, things like that. So when women come to me with these issues, or they have severe anxiety, or they've experienced eating disorders, I almost always ask when I know someone's experienced sexual trauma or abuse if they also had an eating disorder. I have tons of clients that have had eating disorders because it's also very common that you use that as a way to feel in control of your body, because you experienced a time early on when you didn't feel that you had control over your body. So it's a sneaky way that the ego uses to help you feel a sense of power and control. It's not healthy for you, but it works temporarily until it doesn't anymore, right? Until it makes you sick and you start to wake up to how unhealthy that is. So how do you experience true empowerment in your body? Well, you get out your trusty jade egg or glass wand or some sort of pleasure tool, or maybe even just your hand, and you do gentle touch and de-armoring practices. So what does that even mean? Well, it means that you're creating a very conscious container to go internal, to feel what's in your body, to become aware of the places in your pelvic bowl and your vulva where you feel numb, disconnected, where you feel pain, where you might feel tension or stress that you're holding down there. And you literally bring loving touch to that area. So de-armoring is just a process of finding those spots in your body, in your pelvic bowl, in your vaginal canal, on your vulva, where you have those places that don't feel good. And then you bring your fingers, your glass wand, your jade egg, whatever you're using, whatever pleasure tool you want to use, and you are literally pressing and holding into the area and breathing and sounding and moving through any intensity that might arise. And the wonderful thing is that the more that you give space just to feel the sensations or the intensity of the emotion that might be coming to the surface when you get there, the beautiful thing about it is that what I've noticed, at least in the last 7 years I've been doing this, is that it only takes a couple of times to revisit these sensations and the emotions that might arise alongside them until they aren't there anymore. And you get to the point where the pain, the numbness, the disconnection, the disassociation, they're not happening anymore. And then that's when the body is letting you know, hey, you know what? I think we're done with this. I think we've released this. You've given me enough space and time to feel this, and we're kind of done with it. And what's on the other side of that is access to more pleasure. Yes, access to the orgasms you want, or access to the deep internal vaginal orgasms that you're probably really hoping to experience one day. The cervical, the G-spot, the A-spot orgasms that generally aren't available to women because they have never done anything like this before. So whether or not you've experienced sexual trauma or you remember it or not, it doesn't freaking matter. If you want to understand the scientific reason why, I recommend this book all of the time, but please go get the book, The Body Keeps the Score by Basil van der Kolk, and you will learn all about why you don't need to understand or remember what happened in order to heal what happened. Okay? So this is why practices like breath work, or more specifically around sexual trauma or abuse, the de-armoring practices can be so powerful to heal sexual trauma or abuse that you cannot necessarily remember. So guys, the one important thing I want you to take away from today is that you do not ever need to know. I know your mind wants to know. I know it doesn't give you any assurance to tell yourself this, but you do not need to know what happened to heal what happened. You only need to give space for your body to process what happened. And you process it by feeling it, by allowing yourself conscious and intentional space to move through the sensations and the emotions and the intensity of emotion and sensation that may arise as you go through the process of de-armoring your body, of letting go energetically and emotionally at a somatic level what's keeping you from experiencing the pleasure that you want to experience. So if that is something that you would like guided support and help with, my erotic reclamation program is a really great place to start. You can learn all about that in the link in the show notes where it says work with me, discover ways to work with me. The erotic reclamation program, it is a 6-week online course that you can take, or you can opt to do a coaching upgrade, which means you will get 3 private coaching sessions with me if you do the coaching upgrade. Some people do just the online course because they want just the practices to do themselves, and some people recognize that they want further support, and then just know that that is available for you too. If this is something that you're really ready to move beyond and to give yourself that opportunity to do that de-armoring work, that practice, some of those healing practices are in the erotic reclamation program. So check it out and see if it might be for you. If you have any questions, there's a contact form. You can ask me any questions about the program there, and I'll help you decide if I think it's a good fit for you or not. So thank you so much for joining me today. And just remember, feel it to heal it, guys. Get fun comfortable is the only way to experience all the pleasure, the orgasms, and the beauty and the connection that you are really desiring in your sex life and relationship, because all of those blocks that are there, they're there. But yes, we have to allow ourselves to feel them, to heal them. All right, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.